Welcome back to some new r/petty revenge stories, where people share small victories over those who wronged them. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Forced to Clean. My fiancé and I owned a home near the downtown area, where houses are close together and parking space is at a premium. As one of the older homes in the neighborhood, ours was one of the few that had a full private driveway. Most homes had a mutual drive or none at all. The house next door was owned by a creep of a slumlord, so you can imagine the kinds of tenants he attracted. After yet another midnight move out, that house was full of garbage and leave behinds, and he had to clear out the trash to rent it out again. He decided that between the houses, he owned 2 feet, we owned 4 feet, and we had a small sidewalk to access our backyard. It was a great place to store the crap. The garbage pile was about 4 feet high, spilling onto our side and blocking our gate. After sitting for days, the garbage started attracting rodents, so we filed complaints with the municipality. After several days of no action, my fiancé shoveled all the garbage back into the neighbor's house, through a basement window that had been left unlatched. A few days later, we came home from work and discovered the garbage pile back outside, exactly where it had been dumped before, and filed yet another complaint with the city. Roll forward a few days, and we arrive home to discover that the slumlord had returned to do more cleanup. We didn't see him, but we knew he was there, because he parked his piece of crap van in our driveway. We boxed him in, so he couldn't drive off. Eventually he knocked on the door, asking us to move our vehicles. My fiancé gave him a choice: pack up all the junk in his van and take it away, or we'd be calling the city to serve him his bylaw fines, and calling the police to trespass him. Guess what option he picked? The next story is called Shouldn't Cut in Line. This happened back a couple of years ago. I was sitting in line at the local pharmacy drive-thru outside the grocery store. The way they have this line set up is kind of a mess. 3 cars can fit into the pharmacy line, but then it's intersected by the main drive. So the 4th person has to wait a short distance back to allow traffic to pass through. Most people are Midwest nice and follow the rules, but some people don't. This line has not moved for about 10 minutes. The little old lady at the window is taking her sweet time. I'm 3rd in line, waiting patiently across the main drive. Behind me is a lady in a minivan, 4th in line. We have both been waiting for a while, but then this jerk came up and hauled his big SUV into the line, cutting in front of her and blocking one side of the main drive. Now he's 4th in line and she's 5th. She gets out and talks to him, but he's a total jerk to her and he doesn't move. He's pretty smug about it. I hop out of my car and hurry over to her minivan. Park your van and get into my car, I tell her. We'll both go in my car and you can get your stuff when I do. She is totally down with that. So she parked the van and we both walked past Mr. Line Cutter and got into my little car. Oh, that dude was mad. I could hear him complaining. Me and the other girl were just talking and laughing, but I locked the doors, just in case he tried something. But then he got so mad that he drove off. Quick, get your car, I told her once we saw him leaving the parking lot. And she hopped out and got her minivan. While she was doing that, the line moved forward, finally. I just waited where I was until she drove up, because I wanted to make sure she got her spot back. Then we all moved forward. It's just this little thing that happened. But, oh man, justice is sweet. The 3rd story is called Boomer Tantrum. I work for a real estate development company. It's about 25 to 30 employees in total. The ages of the people I work with range from 23 to 68. We are expected to be in the office twice a week, on days of our choosing. Most of the employees love this system. even the senior level people. Some of the older crowd prefer to be in the office. I have no issues with this, as everyone is free to do whatever works best for them. We have this one employee who is quite old and always has something bitter to say in our morning meetings. He isn't a senior level employee, but most of us answer to him out of respect for his age. He's made some of us run personal errands for him and do additional admin work he doesn't want to do. He's just an old bully and always has something negative to say about our generation. One day, he was tasked to do some admin work for our manager, and he asked for help on it. I had back-to-back meetings and a boatload of work to do, so I told him I couldn't help. He was visibly frustrated with me and told me off to my manager. My manager spoke in my defense, as she knew how busy I was. Still, I was annoyed with how he handled that. The next morning, we had a full team meeting, and the topic of working from home came up, and obviously, he had a few words about that. He said that his generation was harder working, that our generation has become extremely lazy, that working from home is just an excuse for people not to work, that our generation has it so easy, and how people worked harder back in the day and didn't slouch at home, pretending to be doing their job. It was a very clear jab at my team and I. I was honestly so fed up, especially after what happened the day before. I snapped back with, well, back in the day, people could afford a house and support a family of a single person's income at 25. Some team members started laughing, and some looked shocked. Immediately, others started chiming in. My coworker added that most people could afford to rent a place on their own for less than triple what it costs now. I then said that most of us are almost 30 and can't even afford a car, so time and money wasted on transportation makes a huge difference to some of our lives. For the first time ever, he didn't know what to say. He just stayed quiet and tried to nervously laugh it off. The way me and my coworker were talking was very calm. It didn't come off as rude or condescending. It felt so good to watch managers nod along and agree with us. Sweet but simple petty revenge. The next story is called Petty Bartender. A few years ago, I was going to see a few friends for a drink. We'd arranged to meet in a local pub, but some of them said they'd get there a little early to watch the football. As a few of us weren't really into football, we said we'd meet them later on. Cue later on. I got to the pub and went to get a drink. It wasn't overly busy, but there was only one bartender, so there was a bit of a delay at the bar. Found a spot at the bar and waited my turn. There were a couple of guys waiting to my right, and a bit of a gap to my left, to another group who had drinks in hand and weren't ordering. As the bartender walked in front of me, he asked who was next. I nodded vaguely to my right, and off he went to serve the other guys. A few minutes later, a girl, probably barely old enough to drink, stood next to me. You know that feeling when you instantly know someone's going to be rude? I got that feeling straight away. She stood at the bar, arm outstretched, card in hand, not even bothering to look over to anybody else stood at the bar. When the bartender then asked these guys who was next, yeah, 2 passion fruit martinis and a pina colada. Remember I said she didn't bother to look at any of us? Well, that was probably a good decision, as I turned to look at the other guys, and they were all staring daggers at her. The bartender took her order and began mixing the drinks. Whilst doing so, he looked over at these guys and shot a subtle wink at them. The bartender finished making the drinks and put them on the bar, out of reach of the young lady. He went to the terminal, pressed a few buttons, and said, "Okay, that will be 186 pounds. The girl said, Wait, what?" Quick as a flash, the bartender replied, "There was a round going. The last order was paying the bills. Are you not with these guys?" The girl replied, "Oh no, I'm just paying for these drinks, thanks." The bartender's reply was very dry. "So you weren't next in line then." He then turned to the other guys standing next to me. Who was next? The queue resumed as intended. When the guy standing next to me got served, he pointed at me and said, "This girl's next." At no point in these exchanges Did any of the orders come anywhere near the value of the round? I got my drinks and paid. Quietly said, "Nicely done," to the bartender, as I did, to which he gave me a knowing smile. I headed back to our table and shared what had happened with my friends. Whilst doing so, some of the guys at the bar looked over to see us staring in their general direction. To my surprise, a few of them waved, with some of my friends waving back. One of my friends explained, "We were standing at the bar earlier, watching the footy with those guys. They are all our team's fans too. Bartender's a fan too. He's sound." The girl stood there for another 10 minutes, waiting to pay for her drinks. She spent the time studying a menu, assumedly not wanting to look at anybody else at the bar. The last story is called Moving Day. This happened yesterday at my new next door neighbor's townhouse. He bought the house a few weeks ago, and the movers came to unload the truck with his household stuff and move him in. A huge truck pulled into the driveway in front of his garage. When they opened up the back of the truck and looked at what was there, they told him that he needed to pay an additional $400 because of how much stuff he had, and that it would take 2 more hours to unload. He protested, but they threatened to leave, and he could take it up with the moving company. They had him over a barrel and took the credit card payment. The movers asked him to open the garage door so they could take everything into the townhouse, because the front door off to the side had about a dozen steps. There was a car in the garage, and they asked him to remove it. He did. The truck pulled up, and in about an hour everything was unloaded and inside. But he had pulled the car in behind the truck, effectively preventing it from driving out. When they asked him to move it, he told him that his wife had the keys and was out shopping. She would be back in a couple hours, since they had told him and her that they needed a couple extra hours to unload. When they pushed back, he told them that he was paying for 2 more hours of their time, so it really didn't matter. She walked out the front door 2 hours later and moved her car so they could drive out and leave. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.